Hey guys, today I wanted to continue talking about the series that I have where I talk in depth about some of the key 2020 battleground states. In the past, I've talked about Texas quite a few times, as well as the state of Florida, and today I just wanted to talk about the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Because in my opinion, I think these three states are the most important states for the 2020 election, and I think that it really is these three states that are going to decide how the 2020 election will go. So basically, the 2016 map basically looked like this. Trump won the election with 306 electoral votes, and Hillary Clinton lost with 232 electoral votes. And so I do think that there is almost a 100% chance that Joe Biden is going to at least win every single state that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. So I really think that Joe Biden is almost definitely going to outperform Hillary Clinton in the electoral college. States like Nevada that Hillary Clinton won by 1.5%. Joe Biden leads in it by 5-6%. Minnesota, she won the state by 1.5% as well. Joe Biden is leading in the state by I believe 11-12% at the moment. So Joe Biden is wildly outperforming Hillary Clinton in 2016, based on polling and the actual results. So I think that Joe Biden definitely has a better chance of winning these three states than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. But in 2016, these three states, Hillary Clinton really took these three states for granted. She did not even visit Wisconsin in the last 5 months up until election night, because these three states, they had all voted with the Democrats for at least 20-25 years consecutively, so nobody really expected these states to go to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton was polling in the lead in all three of these states by around 4-6%, but on election night she did lose. It was within the margin of error. Her lead, she did not have that large of a lead. She had around a 3-4% in Michigan and Pennsylvania, surprisingly a 5-6% lead in the state of Wisconsin, which now seems to be the most conservative out of these three states. But in 2020, Joe Biden leads by over 6-7 points in all of these states, and we'll take a look at all of that polling data in a minute. But looking at this map, if Joe Biden wins these three states, he wins the election. If Donald Trump wins one of them, he will win the election. But honestly, I think that whoever wins one of these states is going to win all three of them. I don't really see a scenario where Biden wins these two and then Trump wins these two, or Biden wins Wisconsin and Trump wins Pennsylvania. I think they are going to go together in 2020. And so the reason why I think that these three states are the most important and not states like North Carolina and Arizona, which are pretty 50-50. Arizona more leaning towards Biden, North Carolina leaning a little bit more towards Trump, is because these states, they have all voted with the Republicans in the past few elections. So I think that it would be harder to flip these two states than it is to flip these three states back. States that went to Donald Trump by less than 1% in 2016. You could pack all the voters that cost Hillary Clinton the election in these three states into a middle-sized high school football stadium. So that is just how close the 2016 election was in these three states. And these are all traditionally Democratic states. These are all Democratic areas. So it really was a surprise that Hillary Clinton lost these states. But I think that Joe Biden, being a much more popular candidate, is definitely able to appeal better to the people in these three states. He was technically born in Pennsylvania, so he was born in the Midwest. So I think that could be an appeal for many voters in these three states. And so basically for Donald Trump, he has to win one of these states. He cannot win the election without winning these states. If Joe Biden wins Arizona, which he is expected to do, Trump would have to win another one of these states to win the election. So really, these three states, I think, are going to be the tipping point states for the 2020 presidential election, especially Wisconsin, in my opinion. I think the tipping point for 2020 is going to be the state of Wisconsin. And so looking at the polling data and basically the 538 forecast for these three states, first, the state of Wisconsin, 538 gives Joe Biden a 73% chance of carrying the state. The best margin for Biden, he wins by 23%. That is never going to happen. For Trump, around 15%, but I think it's somewhere going to be around here. I think Biden is going to have a 4-point win over Donald Trump in the state of Wisconsin. And then looking at their chances of winning, it's been pretty steady. And one thing to note is that in 2016, the polls were very fluctuating. Hillary Clinton, although always expected to win, she was expected to win the election basically throughout the entire election cycle. It did get very close at the end, and it did get very close at many times. And if you really look at the polling data, it was really more of a lot of bubbles, as Clinton was always on top, but there would be many moments where Trump came, within 1-2 points of Hillary Clinton. And looking at the popular vote, it's around a 5% average at this point based on 538. And looking at the polls, we're going to look at this a little closer. Looking at all the Wisconsin polls, Biden currently has a 6.7% lead in the polls over Donald Trump in the state of Wisconsin. And looking back, this was before he clinched the nomination. Trump actually led in the state. It was pretty back and forth. However, since Biden has won the nomination, he's going to accept it tomorrow, I believe. But, since he's become the presumptive Democratic nominee, his lead has just been increasing. He did peak right there at around 9.6% over President Trump. But I think that a 6.8% lead in a state that went to the president in 2016 is definitely not bad news for the Biden campaign. And then next, looking at the state of Michigan, even better for Joe Biden, 82% chance that Michigan is going to go to Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. Looking at the chances, still pretty flat. He started around 81, he's down at 82. And looking at the popular vote, 53 to 46, that is a 7% win for Joe Biden. And I think that is, pretty good of a guess. And then looking at the polling data from the state of Michigan, Biden leads by 7.7 points in the state of Michigan. A state Trump won, he did only win by 0.2%, but that is still an over 7-point swing for the Democrats in the state of Michigan, and I think that is definitely a very good sign for the Biden campaign, and a sign that Donald Trump really needs to do something drastic to help revive his campaign. Because if you look at these two states, once he wins these two, he is only 12 electoral votes away from winning the presidential election. And lastly, the state of Pennsylvania is 75% chance for Joe Biden. I think definitely Pennsylvania is going to go to Joe Biden as well at this point. So very flat graph. 71%, 75% popular vote, still pretty flat. Really not too many changes. And then looking at the polls out of the state of Pennsylvania, Joe Biden has a 6.5% lead over Donald Trump in the state of Pennsylvania. His polling averages have dropped a little bit in all three of these states. They were all at their peak in around late June at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests that occurred all around the country. That was basically the peak. However, now Biden seems to have consistently had a 6 to 7 point lead out of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and then a 7-point lead in the state of Michigan. So, if he were to win these three states, he would just win the election. He can even lose Wisconsin, and let's say he wins Arizona, a state he is expected to win, or if he wins Florida. He doesn't even need the state of Pennsylvania if he is going to win Florida. He doesn't even need Michigan. So, these states are very important, but, I've showed you how he doesn't need the Rust Bowl. But I think it's much easier for Joe Biden to win these three states than the states of Arizona and Florida, because if you look back, if you look at the 538 forecast here, the state of Arizona is the closest state, 56% for Joe Biden that he wins this state. And then looking at the state of Florida, the second lowest, 65%. So I would definitely take a 75% chance of you winning over a 60% chance. And honestly, I think that Joe Biden is going to win Arizona and Florida, but I think that it's these three states that are really going to bring him the win on election night. I think it's going to be Wisconsin that is going to be the state that, helps all of the news media call it the 2020 election for Joe Biden if he were to win the 2020 presidential election, if something does not happen drastically from the Trump campaign. And, another bad sign is that Trump has actually taken out his ads from the states of Michigan and Pennsylvania. But Trump really only needs Wisconsin to win. So if he were to take ads out of Wisconsin, honestly, I would say he's lost. He's basically just given up. But Michigan and Pennsylvania, he really should spend more time in these states, as a backup if Wisconsin does not go, as they were all very close. They all went to Trump by pretty similar margins. But Wisconsin seems to be performing the best for Trump, although it's still very bad for the Trump campaign. But he definitely needs to do something to change the trajectory of this election, as states like Michigan and Pennsylvania have basically slipped away from ever possibly being in the Trump campaign. Also, states like Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, Florida, not Texas, but states like North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and Ohio, they are all polling very well for Joe Biden at the moment. Texas, Trump still leads, but for a Republican candidate, a less than 1% margin of polling margin over a Democrat, that is not good for Donald Trump. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel as well as leaving a like on this video. I will continue to try to cover more states on my channel, more key battleground states, possibly states like Arizona, North Carolina, Ohio, or Iowa. I think I am going to cover in the future. So make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on those videos, and I will see you in the next one.